Welcome back to the Worthy for 30 podcast. I am your host, Eric Tash. With me today is the CEO and founder of Gardyn, the leading AI-powered indoor gardening system that empowers anyone to grow fresh, nutrient-rich produce at home year-round. FX Rouxel, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hi, Eric. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I just love how these things happen, FX, in terms of how you are connected to people. I was talking to one person, and then Diego, Gardyn's PR lead, reached out to me and he said, "Hey, you need to meet FX and talk to FX about Gardyn." I'm excited. We had a chance to connect briefly last week as we were getting ready for this show, and would love to get at least start this conversation with understanding, how did Gardyn come about?
Yeah, that's a great question. And to your point, it's always a small word. I think that's a big lesson as an entrepreneur is you need to realize that things happen and you have no clue how and why, but that's, meant to be. How it started, it started from a dream and a frustration. The frustration is I love doing long distance running and swimming and cycling, triathlons, Ironman. That's my stuff. And when I started doing this on the East Coast, I live in Maryland, close in the DC area, I realized that my performance was really going down. And I was so frustrated about it. I was like, what's going on? And then at that time, I realized that it was because of the food I was eating. I was trying to eat healthy, but buying stuff at the grocery store, produce, I soon realized that actually this produce is harvested like many weeks prior, and there is really nothing left. So I could really feel my performance going down. So my dream related to this frustration was, could we use technology? And in particular, at that time, I was already working in AI. It was not the buzzword that it is today, but we could see the potential. And my question to myself was, could we use AI to actually grow food and make it possible for everyone? And in particular, myself, that's how it starts. You start with something you want yourself. I was like, I desperately want to have my own food at home. How can I do that with AI? That's how it started.
Okay, so how do I make my own food at home? And it's funny, like I went on the Gardyn website and you can create, salads or grow salads in your home. You mentioned
Yeah,
fruit. So what are the
yeah,
varieties? So help us understand, the different permutations of Gardyn.
yeah. And that's the crazy thing. So I'm really proud of what we built, with the team. I started the company now some time ago. That was in late 2018. We started with prototypes, and then like the usual entrepreneur way, started in the garage with some prototypes, and then found a way to industrialize this, and then turn to something that we could start selling. We'll come back to this because I think that's an amazing story. But to your question about what we can grow now on a garden, you can grow north of 120 different varieties. You can grow all the leafy greens you want. You can grow tomatoes, zucchinis, eggplants, peppers. We have hot peppers, sweet peppers, jalapenos, whatever you want. We have strawberries. They're super sweet. These are really my favorite. And more recently, people ask us to be able to grow flowers as well, because it's a beautiful object. It's kind of a natural piece of art in your home. And people are like, hey, I'm growing a ton of food. That's amazing. Can I also grow flowers? So we released sunflowers, hibiscus. So you can have blooming hibiscus in the middle of winter. In Minnesota, it's snowing outside and you have these
Right.
beautiful flowers. That's amazing.
That is amazing. So you're using AI, if you go on the Gardyn website, and I'll include a link to Gardyn's website as well as where to follow FX and his team as they continue to scale and evolve Gardyn. But when I went on the website, I saw you had cameras, you had lights. What are the different components that make up a garden? Again, if I buy let's say I want to grow strawberries in my home because my kids eat
Yes.
strawberries like they're going out of style, what's included within that Gardyn system?
Yeah, so the garden system includes everything you need to get started and start growing. Imagine you go on our website, or you can also go on Amazon, Home Depot. We have now
Mm-hmm.
many partners. You buy your garden device. You pick which starter kit you want to start with. We are offering different starter kits with different types of plants, depending what you want to do. You get your garden typically within 2 to 3 days. We are shipping. We have 3 warehouses, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, one in Texas. So depending where you are, within basically 2 to 3 days, you're gonna get your garden, and you can assemble it. It takes like 5-10 minutes. It's super easy to assemble. And to your question, it comes with the whole device. These are actually columns where you're going to plug the plants in it. It comes with the lights actually providing all the light that the plants need to grow. So you don't need any direct sunlight. This light mimics the sun, and it's providing exactly what the plants need. And it comes also with all the intelligence, so the AI that is embedded in the system that actually is able to detect what is growing on your garden, optimize the growth of the plants, and let you know if there is anything that you need to know or do about your plants. So that's the beauty of it. Within a few minutes, you're going to have the thing set up. The plants are going to start growing. You just need power and Wi-Fi. You just add water in the tank. There is no need for water line or whatever. It's super simple. You can put it wherever you want in your home. I have one that is in my living room, and I love it because it's beautiful. And typically the way it goes, you're going to start having the first sprouts after 2 to 3 days. So it goes pretty fast. And within 3 to 4 weeks, you're going to have the plants that reach maturity, so that you're going to have a big head of lettuce, for example. And after 3 to 4 weeks, you're going to start eating from the plants. And the thing that is kind of a miracle, but that's the way it works. What you do, you don't chop the plants. You absolutely don't chop it. You just take the big leaves around. You leave the smaller one in the middle. And because the root system is developed, the plant is going to keep growing. And typically within a week, the plant is going to be back where it was. So basically, you're going to eat on the same plant for months and months. And that's why it's producing so much. And people are telling us, it's really interesting. People, when they buy a garden the first time, they're like, wow, I'm not sure it's going to produce that much. And after a few months, they tell us, I cannot keep up. It's producing so much. I'm giving food to my neighbors. It's crazy. And it is crazy. It is really producing a ton on just 2 square feet. So that's the miracle.
Wow. So you're really speaking, or you're preemptively speaking to some of the hesitation that someone may have. Is like, I go to the grocery store once or twice a week. I buy my fruit or buy my vegetables. Having a garden system, in my house, seems, burdensome. I don't know, a lot of uncertainty. And you're preemptively saying, actually, no, you can be a novice and you can have this set up within minutes.
It's not that you can be a novice. It is designed for novices. This system, I was part of designing the first version, and now we have a full team, working on this super hard. But we are designing this for people who have absolutely no clue how you grow plants and how you manage this type of systems. That's our mission. Our mission is that everybody, irrespective of your background, skills, time, space, whatever, everybody deserves to have healthy food at home. That's really what we're after. So basically, the system is designed that it is a breeze. You have really super simple. The assembly, again, a few minutes, super easy. Your kids could do it. And then you just plug the plants in the system, and the system takes over and grows the plant for you. And it's going to let you know if you have anything to do. So there are a few things to do. You need to add water. You need to trim a few things here and there. You need to harvest at some point and eat the plants. So you have some stuff to do. It's not, it's not totally hands off, but what you have to do is super simple. And again, the system guides you. It hand holds you step by step. It is really meant for people who have no.
That is amazing. And have any of your customers say, I'm going to open up a green market or like a market in my town based on what I'm harvesting?
So we're saying this. We're saying most people, to be honest with you, just give away the food because they want to be nice with their neighbors or their friends. So that's what they tend to do. We have some echo or some stories about people using this to go to farmers market and actually selling the food on farmers market. It's more anecdotal, evidence, but that's something we've seen. To be honest with you, most people actually do it for themselves and eat the plant themselves.
Right.
And that's the thing. It's super easy. You don't need to have any green thumb. That's the power of AI. That is really, it's like having your own master gardener that is just doing the stuff for you, which is great. And at the end of the day, the food is amazing because at the end of the day, also, something that most people don't know, when you go to your grocery store, most produce is harvested like several weeks prior. So it's dead. I mean, there is really nothing left. But also the produce you find at your grocery store is really standardized. The industry, and that makes sense. I fully understand why they're doing this, but they standardize the varieties because they want to really manage that it's always the same thing, that the varieties is resistant to the supply chain, to pesticides and so on. For gardening, there is no supply chain. There is no pesticide. It's totally pure. So we don't care that whether these varieties are resistant to this type of things. What we want, we are selected our seeds and our plants based on how good it is for us humans. So we have a team that is dedicated, teams of experts in plants. They are traveling the world to unearth amazing seeds that our grandmothers were using and growing and bring them back to life for us. And they are testing so many things. We have so many gardens we are using just for testing. We are growing these plants and we are looking at how it's growing. Is it growing well on garden? Is it growing fast? Is it producing a lot of fruits or not? Is it tasty? Is it nutritional? One thing we do, for example, we take a plant that we grow on garden, we take the same one from the grocery store, and we send these two plants to labs to do nutritional profiling, to really look at the nutritional profile of the plants.
Yep.
And typically what we find is our plants are at least 50% more nutritious. And why? Simply because we are selecting the plants based on their nutritional profile. That's the reason we are selecting them. And also because it's super fresh. It's not been harvested weeks prior. It's harvested, it's minutes from harvest to plate.
That is.
So that makes a big difference.
Yeah, no, that's extraordinary. And in terms of, you have these scientists, these nutritional scientists that are doing these analyses, what does a product roadmap look like for Gardyn in terms of a year, like in terms of new gardens that you're launching?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are working really hard on the product roadmap. When we say product, actually, when we look at what we're doing, look at what we're doing through 4 product roadmaps. One is the device itself. We started with something that is called Gardyn Home. It's a device that is perfect for a family. You can really have a big salad every day for a family of 4. It's called Gardyn Home. That's the thing we released in 2020. And then we had several generations of it. Now we are generation 4, so it's Gardyn Home 4. And then people told us, hey, you know what? That's great, but I'm in an apartment. Or, it's just the 2 of us. We don't need that much food. Do you have something that is smaller, more compact, more accessible in terms of price? So that's something we worked on. And end of last year, we released Gardyn Studio. And Gardyn Studio is a way more compact. It's just 1 square foot. It's perfect for a family of 2. It's just, the 2 of you, and you can have a big salad for 2. And it's priced also in a way that is way more accessible at $4.99. So that's, the type of roadmap we're working on. We keep working on new devices. I cannot tell you what's coming up, but
Right.
there are going to be new devices coming up in the near future. So that's one product roadmap. We are also working on accessories. When people get a garden, they love having different accessories related to that. We've designed a nursery, we've designed some vases that you can move the plants into, and so on and so forth. So that's also something we're working on to extend the universe, the garden universe with accessories. The third one is the plants. We are working and releasing new plants almost every month. That's, in our DNA, that's what we do. We want people to discover amazing plants that they have no clue exist. So that's also part of the roadmap. And then the last roadmap that is more difficult for people to understand, but it's really critical, it's the AI roadmap. It's the digital roadmap. We are working a lot, and we have a very strong team of software engineers working on the AI to really keep optimizing the way we are growing the plants and also the way we are providing an amazing experience to people. So we're really trying to enrich the experience, the digital experience related to the plants. So a lot of things coming up.
Yes, a lot of great and exciting things coming up.
Yes.
As you're talking about AI and the digital roadmap, I see that Gardyn was named one of Time's world's top green tech companies of 2025. What is the criteria?
Yes.
Like what is the criteria in order to be named to that list? Is it that robust a digital AI roadmap? Is that doing something that no other company is doing in terms of how they're thinking about nutrition and AI and that intersection?
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I don't know all the criteria they're using, because at the end of the day, they are the ones making their shortlist and their choices. But what I understand is that they're really trying to select companies that are really using and developing cutting edge technology, which is our case. So if you think about AI, we are developing our own AI models. We have really people, we're not just using an AI from the shelf. We are using and developing our own model. We are training our own model. So that's pretty intensive. So they are really recognizing companies that are really super cutting edge. And at the same time, I think they're looking at the impact. When you are considered like one of the top world's top green tech company, it's really about the impact you have in terms of sustainability. And that's something we are absolutely focused on. One thing we've not talked about too much, we talked a lot about the nutritional side of it, and the health side of it. So we are super proud to be able to help people have a healthier lifestyle, but we are doing it in a sustainable way. And when I say sustainable way, it's not just a few things here and there. We are really making a big difference at scale. If you think about produce that is grown conventionally, it is using a lot of pesticides, it is using a lot of water, CO2 emissions, and so on and so forth. When you grow food on garden, there is no pesticide. So there is no pesticide in the environment, there is no pesticide on your plate. It's pure. We are using 95% less water than conventional agriculture. You're going to tell me, how is it possible? Actually, it's very simple. The only water we're using is the one taken by the plant, used by the plant, because the water is circulating in a closed loop. There is no water that goes to evaporation. Most of the water that is used in conventional agriculture is just because it's poured on the fields and goes to evaporation, which is kind of, that's the way it is, but that's kind of stupid. That's something we've solved. And then in terms of CO2 emissions and so on, basically it's you take the plants from your living room to your plate. So you're the one, harvesting, and there is absolutely no transportation. So that makes a huge difference. And the thing that I think impressed Time Magazine when they gave us this award is the fact that not only are we doing the right thing, but we can quantify it. Because we have this AI that is monitoring every garden in the world real time, this AI also can compute how much food is produced every day, every hour. So I can tell you how many pounds we've grown from the beginning of Gardyn. We've grown north of 3.5 million pounds of produce on these gardens. We know it because the system monitors this. But the same way, we can also compute how much water we saved. We saved north of 60 million gallons of water. And same thing for pesticides and CO2 and so on and so forth. So I think that's why also we got this award, because we want to do good, but we are also able to quantify this and to prove it.
Yeah. Oh, again, that's why you're here. That's why we're talking. The premise is, talking to business leaders who are doing good while doing well. And you started this conversation with we're mission driven. Consumers should or need to have access to great tasting, full nutritional valued food, vegetables and fruit. And Gardyn is making that possible. The reason why I'm shaking my head is because you've thought of everything. Unless there are other questions that you're posing, like, again, trying to identify what you don't know.
Yeah, and we have so much to do still. At the end of the day, we are eating our own dog food. We were the first ones starting to say, hey, we want this. I want this for myself. I want this for my kids. I have two boys, and for me that was so important that they eat healthy. What I love with what we're doing at Gardyn is not only is it healthy and sustainable, it totally changes the connection and the relation to food. A lot of parents are struggling because the kids don't want to eat healthy, like, I don't want veggies, I don't want produce and so on. The beauty with gardening, because they see the plants and the food growing, the kids are like, wow, that's super cool, I want to take care of it. I see my boys, they were the ones making the big salad at night. I was telling them, hey, you go and harvest. And they were going to the garden and harvesting the whole stuff. They loved it. And they could see all the plants growing. So suddenly for them, it's totally natural to eat from garden. The best example I have is this guy. It's been a few months now. I was talking to this guy, and he's a dad. His daughter I think is around 4, and he was telling me, you know what, FX, when my daughter wakes up in the morning, every morning, the first thing she does, she goes to the garden and she picks cherry tomatoes and eat them like candies. And it's great for her. That's amazing, whatever. But the point was, as a dad, you could see his face. He was so proud. He was like, yes, I'm doing the right thing for my kids. And as a parent, this is so important. You'll do everything you can to make sure that your kids are going the right way and are growing into, great adults that you can be proud of. And that's the way to do it. And I still remember this, because in my mind, I was like, yes, we're on the right track. When I see parents talking about things that are so important, as a parent, I know it as well. That makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. I'm a parent of a 9-year-old and soon to be 5-year-old. So having that practical or that functional benefit, and then have that emotional benefit as well, like having that vested interest in, yes, I understand that this is ending up on the plate. This food is ending up on the plate that I'm about to, again, the food I'm about to eat, but actually seeing it from inception to actually harvesting. Yeah, it makes a tremendous difference, because then you're again, there's that educational coefficient, that educational component, which is massive.
Totally. It's really the educational part that becomes totally natural. You don't have to fight to impose this. It comes totally naturally and it stays. My two boys now are gone. They went to college.
Hmm.
When they left, the day they left, you know what they asked for?
Uh,
They said,
gar-
"Hey, Dad, can we have a garden for our dorm?" And you're like, "Yeah, that's great. That's exactly what you want." I'm so proud. I'm so proud.
so yeah, I can imagine. Like, it's like, I'll help you move in, and of course I'll set up a garden for your dorm room, so you can impress all your friends on, here's
Absolutely.
here's here's salad and fruit, ad nauseum, for us to eat. What does a commercial application look like for Garden? I know you talked a lot about residential and studio and dorms. What does, like, a commercial enterprise application look like?
So right now we are really focusing on consumers on B2C. So we're not doing that much, commercial applications yet, but we see this coming big, big time. As any company, and as an entrepreneur, you want to do things step by step. So if we try to do too much at the same time, we're going to just fail. For us, it's really important to bring the right value, the right service. So we're doing step by step. So we've done this analysis of looking at all the commercial applications. There are a ton of them. And we are trying to go step by step. The first step we identified that came organically to us is schools. We have a
Mm,
lot of, and it ties back also to the question of kids. We have a lot of schools that already for years came to us and say, "Hey, that's amazing. I want this for my classroom. I'm going to use it for STEM and so on." So what we did, starting last year, we actually built a curriculum around the
mm.
garden for every grade, K through 12. And that's something now we're providing to schools, including the garden, the plants, the curriculum, everything. And this is just ramping up like crazy, and we're super proud of this. So that's one application. We see so many others. We have a lot of restaurants, hotels coming to us. We have also a lot of businesses that are in mental health and wellness, nutritionists. We have some PTSD clinics. We are working
Okay.
in particular with one in Texas that is now including garden in their protocol, in their care protocol, as a way to help people recover from PTSD and from mental health disorders, which in my mind is really incredible. So we see so many things coming up. It's really about doing it step by step, I would say, to make sure we are providing the right solution, the right services.
Right. And I would think, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, like, if a hotel, like, I understand, like, schools makes total sense. But if a hotel chain or a hospitality chain, for instance, comes off the street and says, "Hey, FX, I would love, to scale Garden within my restaurants," what's the, like, the value alignment process, or evaluation process? What does that look like? Because I imagine, if you're just slapping a garden to say, "Hey, we're sustainable," but we're really not sustainable, consumers can see right through that. So what is that evaluation in terms of the right partner?
Yeah, and I would say it's a case on a case by case basis. At the end of the day, we are super open. We're here to have the most impact possible. Each time someone reaches out to us and say, "Hey, I have this restaurant, this hotel, this is what I want to do," we are always open to helping and defining solutions. We have this restaurant recently that it's actually it's a funny story. It's an Italian restaurant in Anchorage. We're everywhere in the US, and that's the beauty of Garden. You don't need there is no you can be anywhere. We can ship you the gardens. We can ship you many of them,
Hmm.
and you can build whatever you want. So this guy, he decided to have a wall of Italian herbs in Anchorage in the middle of winter. And he ordered, I don't remember how many gardens he ordered, but like a ton of them. And he has this big wall full of Italian herbs, basil, rosemary,
Hmm.
thyme. And now he's bragging that he's the only restaurant with so much, fresh herbs in Anchorage, which is super great.
Nah.
So to answer your question, we are very open. I know that we're obviously very business friendly. Our goal is to make this possible. I think we have an amazing technology that can be deployed everywhere, overnight. So each time people are reaching out, we're here to help.
Excellent. In terms, again, if you had a crystal ball, so going back to the residential, the consumer, the B2C side, where do you see this in terms of people growing salad and vegetables and fruit from the comfort of their home versus going to a grocery store? Like, what do you think this will look like in the next 10 years?
That's a great question. I'm a strong believer that food is going to be grown much closer to consumers in the coming years for many reasons we can talk about. But first, right now the way we are growing food is totally not sustainable, as we were talking about. But conversely, the impact of climate change is going to be huge on agriculture, and that's a very worrisome thing because of all the extreme events and weather events that we're gonna have, weather conditions. We know crops outside are going to be more and more at risk. So that's one. The second thing is when you have to truck things across the US, sometimes fly things from far away. This is absolutely not, doesn't make economic sense. So we know in the future, food is going to be produced close to cities or in cities, the closest possible to consumers, indoors to be protected against climate change. So the question is really, once you've said that, what is the form and shape of this? That could be in big warehouses. Some companies are working on this, building big warehouses to grow food inside. Most of them actually went bankrupt over the past few years, mainly because it's very capital intensive. They had to spend millions and millions. And actually, once they have invested and they produce so much food, they are still stuck because they need to get this food distributed. So they are still going through the usual, supermarkets. That is really a bottleneck for them. So they had a hard time. And then some other people, and that's what we're trying to do. Our approach is to go fully distributed. Our approach is everybody should have access to this food. It should not be in big farms. It should be in your home. It should be the closest possible. There should be no middleman. You should grow everything you want. We have the technology today to actually grow everything you need with you having no skills and no time to spend on this. So let's do it. That's really our vision. Yeah. My vision is we should have a garden in every home. And even more importantly, what I would love, what I dream of is that healthy food becomes as ubiquitous, as easy to access as junk food or even easier. My dream is that when people are thinking, hey, what is it I'm going to have for dinner tonight, instead of just reaching out to your freezer and take a frozen pizza or some, processed food, it's going to be much easier to just go to your garden and make a big salad. And the day we are at this point, that means we've solved a lot of health issues and wellness and well-being issues for Americans, which I think is so important.
And those are all great prognostications of what's to come. I definitely agree. Consumers want more control of what they put in their bodies, but there's, as you can attest to, there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of fragmentation in the media landscape. So how do you get through to those consumers who are looking for a solution like Gardyn?
It is really hard because most people don't know this type of solution exists yet. So that's why we're talking tonight. In my mind, it's part of our job to let people know that it exists, that's something they can consider. And then it's hopefully a lot about education. Unfortunately, there are a lot of best kept secrets. Everything about the quantity of pesticides that are used, the impact on the environment, what you're eating. Most people, I guess, don't realize that actually public health overall in the US is pretty bad. I mean, if you think about it, people with overweight or obesity is skyrocketing. I think the percentage of people that are overweight or obese in our country is like 75%. I mean, that's crazy. And what is even more crazy is it's now getting to kids. And we see kids that are, having weight issues younger and younger, and that's really worrisome. But same thing, we see a lot of diseases like diabetes, like cardiovascular disease that are totally related to food, are really ramping up big time, and that's really scary. So we need to do something about it.
Right. And again, using Gardyn as a way to, again, incorporate or have more healthy options at your disposal right within your home. So, some of those, concerns around cardiovascular or diabetes, is mitigated. And in terms of that message, it's funny, like when we were getting when had our conversation, I think it was last week. Certain celebrities have caught on to Gardyn, like Carrie Underwood. So that's pretty exciting, right? You have, yes, of course, you want that everyday consumer, but like I just want to understand, like from a celebrity standpoint, like what do you think, or why do you think Carrie Underwood again is gravitating towards Gardyn? I imagine it's a lot of the things that you've mentioned about its benefits, but I'd love to hear from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot of celebrities now adopting a garden because they're like everybody, they are very busy. They have so much to do. And at the same time, they want to stay healthy. And I would say when you're celebrities, you have a crazy life. I mean, everybody has a crazy life, but I think it's even more crazy when you're a celebrity. And you need to manage your time. Your time is so precious. And you want to stay healthy because it's the way you find the energy. At the end of the day, you want to be the best version of yourself. And to get there, you need to be in great shape. You need to have the energy to wake up every morning and do these crazy things you're doing. When you're a celebrity, you're traveling so much, you're doing so many things. It is hard. Same thing when you're an athlete. I mean, I'm not a big athlete at all, but that's the reason I started Gardyn, because I was doing, sport, long distance sport. I wanted to be the best version of myself. I will never be the world champion at all, but I wanted to actually be proud of what I'm doing. And that's why we're seeing so many athletes that are actually taking Gardyn now, because they know it's an amazing way, natural way to have access to super healthy food, to be the best version of themselves. And when you see what they have to do every day in terms of training, in terms of traveling, in terms of all the stress, this is an amazing thing they have to actually feel great about their food, but also feel great in terms of connecting to nature, being mindful, feeling grounded.
And
So
because
that's a game changer for that.
absolutely, and I imagine again, because Gardyn is yielding such volume in terms of the crop, whether it's salad or it's vegetables or fruit, a lot of those celebrities, or again anyone who has a busy schedule, is able to have enough to take on the road, regardless of how busy their schedule is, which I think is excellent.
Absolutely. And when you think about it, sometimes you say, hey, the grocery store is pretty convenient. But the reality is when you're traveling, you're coming back from any travel, whatever. When you have to still go to the grocery store to do some shopping and so on because your fridge is totally empty, that's super frustrating. I know I'm traveling quite a lot. Each time I come back home, I have my garden that is just waiting for me and smiling to me when I harvest my. So you're coming from several days of traveling. Your fridge is totally empty, but I don't care. I have my garden that is here ready for me.
That is excellent. I love it because if I can avoid a trip getting into my car and going to my local grocery store, I definitely will take you up on that,
Yeah,
FX. And I highly
yeah.
suggest. I think this is a great place to stop this conversation. Again, one of many conversations. So I'm going to include in the show notes where to find Gardyn. FX mentioned Home Depot, Amazon, Gardyn's own website, as well as where to follow Gardyn on social media, as well as FX on social media. If anyone has a question about entrepreneurship, about sustainability, about the nutrition, the food supply chain, how can they reach out to you, FX?
Yeah, I mean, super happy to give my email address. At the end of the day, I try to answer as much as I can, but I'm always very happy to help any entrepreneur. We did not talk that much about, how I built Gardyn, but when you build a company, whatever it is hard. There are so many times you feel, so lonely. And I've been super lucky to have a lot of friends, entrepreneur friends around me who help me big time. Help me, for very tactical things sometimes, like, hey, you should do this, you should do that. This is how you fight, this type of things, whatever. And sometimes also help me through amazing advice or even just supporting me and say, hey, we know it's hard, but it's really worth it. What you're doing is important. It needs to be successful. So any entrepreneur that is starting something, we know it's hard. We're here for you. And any help you need, let us know. We're here.
Okay, excellent. And so I'll include that the email address in the show notes as well. And it's interesting, I just released my latest episode with Mike and Cass Lazaro, who just released a book called Shoveling Shit, a love story, which is their journey about entrepreneurship. To your point about starting and scaling and selling companies, and it's not all roses.
It is not at all. Something we've not discussed is, how I started the garden. Just to make you smile, we spent 2019 industrializing the product, so trying to have it manufactured. And it was the first manufacturing site was in China. Now we moved to Malaysia, but it was in China. And we were in China in January 2020. We were sleeping in the factory to try to get this Gardyn out. And we got them manufactured. We put them in the container left, and then we flew back to the US end of January. And when I landed, I went to France. I still remember this dinner, and they were like, "Oh, you're coming from China. Have you heard about this virus, something, Corona?" And I was like, "No, I have no clue what you're talking about." They were not talking about anything like this in China at that time. And then the containers left. China shut down totally. The containers arrived in the US early March 2020, and then the whole country went into lockdown. I think that was March 12th, March 13th,
Yes.
something like this.
Yes.
Yeah, you remember. If we had gotten this container just a few days later, there would be no Gardyn, there would be no company. We would not be talking right now. So it's just, being an entrepreneur. Sometimes you need to be lucky. Sometimes you need also to push things, push the envelope, and time is of the essence. You need to move super fast because you never know what's going to happen the following day. And that was the case for us. We got the containers just in time before the lockdown. That means when people were locked down, we were super happy to be able to provide this source of food, and we felt that we could have an impact. That was amazing. That was the genesis of part of how we built the company. At sometimes it was meant to be that way, and sometimes you need to be lucky.
Yeah. Oh, wow. And this is going to be part two of the conversation at a later date. But in terms of manufacturing, is manufacturing still done overseas or is it done domestically?
Yeah, so we have two supply chains that are totally separate on purpose. We manufacture the device itself. It's manufactured now in Malaysia. And then everything that touches the plant, so the cubes where the seeds are,
Yeah.
this is manufactured actually in the US. Why? Because we want to totally control what touches the plant. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're eating. So on purpose, we totally separated the two. Everything that touches the plants, the seeds are sourced from small farms in the US. We have partnership with, and the cubes themselves are actually manufactured in Maryland.
That is amazing. That's like probably the best founder story I've heard. Like again, if it was a couple of days later, yeah.
Yes, but that I'm sure my story is not unique. I mean, I'm sure there are so many examples in an entrepreneur's life where it's a matter of life or death, and it's a question maybe of hours or a few days. And it's so often the case. Sometimes also when you have to make decisions. I remember when I made the decision to launch Gardyn, I did all the prototyping in my garage with a few friends, and my wife was totally against the fact I launched the company. And she was against because she was like, FX, that's not serious. We have a mortgage. We have two boys that are going to go to college very soon. That's not serious. You cannot just, I get it. I get your dream but frankly, you want to, is it really sure? Is it going to be successful? And she was really worried. And I think she was right. She was right because at some point, when you're an entrepreneur, you have a dream, and it's great to have a dream, but sometimes you also need to come back, to the earth and say, okay, is that dream realistic? Do you think it can work? Because otherwise you can spend a lot of time and money for nothing. And she asked me the question that I think is the right question. She said, FX, I get your dream. Your dream makes a ton of sense, but I want to make sure that this stuff you're building is actually working and that people like it. And I said, okay, honey, how do you want to do that? And she said, okay, you know what? You've got these 3D printers that you've used to do the prototypes. I want you to turn these 3D printers into a small production line, manufacture a few prototypes, and give these prototypes to France for them to give them our feedback. And that's what I did. So I built roughly 20 Gardyns.
Okay.
They were not looking great, but they were functional. I gave these Gardyns to France, and she said, I want to be the one to actually get the feedback. I don't trust you, FX. You're gonna tell me that everything is. I want to be the one, surveying them. So she was the one going to every friend that had a Gardyn for several months and getting all the feedback and asking all the questions and so on. And she's super organized. She's super analytical. So she came back with a long, detailed analysis. And the bottom line of the analysis, she came back to me and she said, okay, FX, you know what? I talked to all these friends, and there are a lot of things to improve. There are a lot of things that are not working that needs to be fixed. And there are a lot of things that needs to be improved. But overall, they love it. Overall, they love the quality of the food. They love the concept of it. There is something here. And she's the one who said, I think you should go. I think you should launch the company. And that's how we did it. And you know, at the end of the day, that's also the in my mind the lesson of this story. When you're an entrepreneur and you're launching something, it's a family thing. You know, you cannot believe you just do it on your own. You're involved your family. You know, it's a super intense endeavor. You want your family to be supportive. You want your family to be on your side and feel that they are part of the trip. And that's what they've done. You know, when I was prototyping and having all these 3D printers, we organized shifts, and my boys actually were the ones doing the shift and moving the parts to manage the production. And that was on our kitchen top. That's what the entrepreneur is about when you start. So that would be my main lesson to entrepreneurs is you want to dream super big, you want to be bold, absolutely, but at the same time you want to have a few people around you who keep you honest with what you're dreaming about is really realistic, and push you to test the limits, test what you're doing, so that at the end of the day you can make the best decisions.
That
That
is,
would be my recommendation.
and if I can add one thing, I think that's all. Again, and I've spoken to a lot, maybe not as many entrepreneurs as you, FX, but spoken to a lot of entrepreneurs. Those first 20, how many prototypes that you gave out?
Yeah, roughly 20 we did, yes.
So that 20, and I've heard from a lot of founders who, again, yes, they're the visionary and they dream and they aspire. And then you have someone like your wife who grounds you more in reality. Those 20 to 50, again, first customers are crucial. That feedback is crucial, right? Because if you didn't get that feedback, then what? Then like
Absolutely.
yeah. Then
This feedback is super important. This feedback is super important, and that's a great point you're making. It is critical to go into the market as early as possible. So many people are like, "Hey, it's not perfect. We need to make it better," and so on. I don't believe it. I think you want, there is always this concept of MVP, but I think it's really true. You really want to go to the market, to the customers as early as possible to start understanding what they think and start getting their real feedback. They are the only ones who can really tell you what's working, what's not. And the only ones that can really guide you in terms of what you want to focus on to make it better. And that's what we did, so we had these prototypes that was super helpful, but we went into the market, as early as March 2020, as I was explaining. And let's be clear, the first Gardyn we released, that was Gen 1 in 2020, that was not that great. I mean, the device was functional, but frankly, it was a pain to assemble. There were a few things that were not working. The AI was nascent. We've done so much since then. Now if you look at Gen 4, it's super easy to assemble. It's really a breeze. The device is beautiful. It's super robust. The AI is so advanced. That was not the case in the first generation. But at the same time, we could really learn, and the first customers usually are early adopters. They are a bit patient as well. They see that it's something totally new, and to some extent they accept that because it's totally new, it's not perfect, and they are super happy to give you their feedback. But obviously, as you grow,
right. So to end on this, I've spoken to Tom at Aura a couple times in email. There's a there in terms of a partnership. I don't know what it is between Aura, the Aura Ring, and Gardyn, because again, you're both using data analytics, AI, to help anyone live a healthy life. I just got to figure out, okay, what's that partnership? What does that look like? But to sum up what you're saying, Reid Hoffman's favorite or famous line is, if you're not embarrassed by your early your early product, you've launched too late. So it has to have some sort of that shock value to say like, oh, okay, I need to make some refinements, or I need someone to give me that constructive feedback. To your point, you have those Gen 1 consumers who are bought in, but they're also looking for, okay, what's next? And when it becomes more mainstream and more widespread, again, they get those features and specifications that they're looking for. Excellent. Well, FX, as I mentioned, a pleasure. Insights filled conversation, and we look forward to the next one. Thank you. Yes.